and I'm talking about books. Again. Husband and I are traveling again. This is going to be a work and a recreational trip, which means I'm going to have a lot of time to read. I thought I would just share my excitement with all of you and let you guys know what I'll be reading. Usually before we go on a big trip, I like to do a book recommendation video based on the theme of the trip and where we're going and all that kind of stuff. We are headed to the Oregon coast, which is one of my favorite places in the world. But unfortunately, I do not have a lot of ocean type sort of books to recommend. Everything I had was sort of like ocean voyage. And, well, that just didn't feel like the right sort of recommendations. I don't have enough Oregon-based books to recommend to you, and I just barely did a, like, wild nature adventure book recommendation video for our last trip when we went camping. It just didn't make sense, so I decided to give you my travel reading list instead. Lucky you. Without further ado, here is my traveling TBR. Let's start with the middle grade books. The BFG by Roald Dahl. Classic middle grade Roald Dahl. Elementary school sort of level of reading. Very, very easy, very quick. Not too dense of a story, that sort of stuff. Apparently this is about a very big, friendly giant. Big, friendly giant? Okay, yeah. That's all I know about it. There's a giant and he's a nice guy. I'm really looking forward to the sort of just innocence of middle grade reading with this book, so this is just gonna be a nice, easy, quick read that's not gonna hurt my brain. BFG by Roald Dahl. And then The Girl Who Cried Monster by R.L. Stine. This is a Goosebumps book. Goosebumps books never let me down. R.L. Stine never lets me down. I just know I'm going to be entertained. I know I'm gonna giggle a little bit. Cliche is not the right word to use here. I kind of know what's gonna happen. I know the formula and things like that, but at the same time, I still find a lot of entertainment in them. Usually things that are kind of written by formula really bother me. Ooh. But for whatever reason, Goosebumps it works for me. They're always entertaining. I never have to worry about them. I think this one's about a girl who suspects her teacher is a monster and no one's gonna believe her. Pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. The Girl Who Cried Monster by R.L. Stine. And then Love and Thumps and the Gateway to Foo by Overt Sky. I'm pretty sure this is about a boy who finds a gateway to another world, and then of course hijinks ensue. I think this is going to be the same kind of style and flavor of Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. Kids dealing with magical things in the real world but also in the magical world, so it's kind of like crossover of worlds, which is always cool. I feel like it's going to be kind of fun and kind of entertaining, but also a little deeper than the easier middle grade reads like the Goosebumps and the Roald Dahl book. An intricate story, but not too intricate because it's still middle grade. I just think it's going to be a really good story that I'm really going to like, and I'm really excited to see what this is about. It's a series, which is great. That means there's other stuff if I like it. Awesome. I'm excited to see what's going on in this world. Love and Thumps and the Gateway to Foo by Overt Sky. Next we have The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket. This is book 3 in the series of Unfortunate Events. I really, really like the series. They're very easy, they're very quick, they're very simple, but they're really uniquely told stories. And I think that's what I really, really like about this series, is the voice of the narrator of the story just is so funny and so honest. There's just a really cool style with these books, and they still keep it simple. Sometimes a highly stylized book can kind of get in its own way and interrupt the story. And I don't find that that happens at all with the series of Unfortunate Events. I feel like that just really adds to the fun and the flavor of these books, and they're just dismal but hilarious and entertaining. That's accurate. The series of Unfortunate Events is about 3 orphans who keep ending up in the company of their horrible long-lost relative that just wants to steal their fortune. So he does terrible things. Horrible things just keep happening to these sad kids, but they're really, really cool kids. One is an engineer, one is a heavy reader, and one is a baby that just won't stop biting stuff. It's awesome. This is just awesome, awesome literature. I love it so much. I'm excited to continue on with this series. The Wide Window, book 3 in the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. The last middle grade book I'll be taking with me, Dragon's Future by Candy J. Wyatt. I did have it next up on just my in general TBR to get to next because I've had it for a little while and I really want to get this reviewed. But then I got to thinking about it and I want to film my review at home with like my books behind me that you see here so that it's like booky and nice and not, you know, in an RV. It's got a weird background and the sound isn't as great and I just don't really like what I like to do my book reviews very soon after finishing the book so that everything's still kind of churning around in my head and that way nothing gets forgotten and it just makes more sense to me and the review turns out better and blah 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 blah. So if this book does get read, it won't be until the very end of the trip. That way I can do the review as soon as I get home. Because who doesn't like to just jump on YouTube the minute they're back from a 2-week traveling coastal hiking expedition? This is a middle grade story about dragons. That's all I got. I've really been on this middle grade fantasy kick, and a lot of the books I have coming up are middle grade fantasy, and I'm just sort of in that vibe right now. This is just fits right in with all that, so awesome. Dragon's Future by Candy J. Wyatt. Books for grown-ups. The Martian by Andy Weir. I've seen the movie adaptation of this book and I really liked it. Great story with really great characters, and I've heard really great things about the book. Side note, this book was originally an indie published work for free on a blog. As an indie writer, it's very exciting to hear about a book that can reach that much commercial success that was originally indie published. That's a huge deal! I'm excited to kind of see what the book is about. I'm very upset with myself that I have not actually read this yet, but I've just been dedicating all my reading to other books, which is silly because that's silly. We're finally gonna have this and probably read it because I really want to see what goes on in the book. This is the story about a guy who is on a space mission to Mars. The crew has to leave, but then he gets separated from the group and they think he died and they have to leave without him. And then it turns out he didn't die, so he has to basically figure out how to not die on Mars. I know it's funny, and I know that it's interesting, and I know that it's mostly scientifically accurate, which is a rare thing in a science fiction book. I'm very excited to have this read along with having seen the movie. That's gonna be cool. The Martian by Andy Weir. And then Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I will be bringing the Fellowship of the Ring with me on this trip. I don't know if I'll actually pick it up, but I tend to never leave home without a copy of one of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's just a travel thing for me. It's just a book that I never know when I'm gonna want to grab it, and so I have to sort of always have it. However, I am actually considering reading it this trip because I'm going to be in some nice, pretty green foresty areas. I'm going to have the time to really put some thought and brain power to this, and so I feel like I may actually grab it and read it. Not just keep it in the bottom of my bag just in case, but actually pick it up and read it, which is very exciting. If I do end up reading the Fellowship of the Ring, that's super duper. If not, I think I'm going to do a full reread of the series in the fall, once the insanity of summer has died down. If you happen to live under a rock, Lord of the Rings is the story of a magical evil ring that must be taken back to its evil land of Mordor and be destroyed. A group of people from different races are charged with taking the ring to be destroyed, and it is a journey, adventure, and emotion, and just epic feelings. Yes, Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring will be with me on this trip. I will also be bringing with me Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. I started this short story collection some time ago and I had to shelve it just because other things were taking up my brain space and it just wasn't working for me at the time. But I am very excited to get back to this because I absolutely adore Neil Gaiman. He could do no wrong for me, and this is just going to be the perfect book for when I don't have time to just sit there and read for a little while and I'm just in between things or something's going on. Because they're short stories, I don't have to like make a big commitment to it. So this is just going to kind of be something I have on my tablet with me for when I have a few minutes when I'm waiting in between for stuff to happen. You don't have to just really like commit the brain power to, if that makes sense. Because it is a collection of short stories. It's not something that's just this whole big giant epic beginning to end thing that I have to keep track of. It's just nuggets of wonderful literature. Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. And then I'll be bringing with me This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I have never read anything by her, none of her series or anything like that, and I've really been wanting to, and I've had this forever, and I've really been wanting to actually try it out. I know that it's about monsters. There's monsters and not monsters. There's monsters and I think not monsters. Very excited to see what's going on in the beginning of this duology and just to kind of dip my toes in some of her writing. I follow her on Twitter and I really admire her, and I know she's found a lot of success, so there's got to be something pretty good going on with her writing. And so I'm excited to check it out and to kind of see what is going on here. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. The last book that I will be bringing with me on this trip is some Jane Austen. No, I am not bringing this entire bind-up with me. That would be insanity. How am I supposed to hike around a forest with this in my bag? I mean, yeah, books torture me, but they don't need to torture me, like, physically. Specifically, I will be reading my ebook copy of Northanger Abbey. It's been on my list of books to definitely read in 2017, and it's about dang time that I just sat down and read it, and I'm gonna have time to sit down and read it, so we are going to do just that. I don't even know what Northanger Abbey's about. I've heard it's a really great satire, and I heard it's kind of a unique book of hers, and I've heard it's kind of funny. I really just want to read this not really obscure but lesser known work by Jane Austen because I really love her stuff. Pride and Prejudice was great. I loved Persuasion. Absolutely adored Persuasion. We're gonna give Northanger Abbey a try and see what that's about and see where it falls on my spectrum of Jane Austen love, because why not? Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Those are the books I'll be bringing with me on our trip to the Oregon coast. We are going to be gone for the rest of July. All of July. The remainder of July, I will be gallivanting the rocky coast of Oregon, and I'll be hiking through forests and seeing cool things. It's gonna be really, really great because I'm gonna be getting a lot of content for my travel channel, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of cool work stuff. It's just gonna be a really, really cool, really productive traveling experience. But fear not, even though I am gone, I have pre-recorded many a video for your viewing pleasure, so don't worry, I'll still be popping up in your subscription feed so that you can still get your, you know, dose of whatever this is. Unless you're not subscribed, in which you should subscribe, because obviously this is a place of intellectualness. No. Intellectual thoughts and ideas, and no ridiculousness whatsoever. So now I just lie to YouTube. Thanks for watching!